And my name is Paul Arrigo. I'm the library director, and a number of people. It's nice for everyone to be here. And I'm going to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker is Kawana, like the Hispanic. Kawana Edmondson is a wife, mother of 8 adult children, 35 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. Right? She is also the second oldest sister of 4 siblings, including one that's 4 years younger. Right?
Right.
She's been a nurse for 28 years and was a police officer in between nursing for 10 years. She loves healing crystals and hypnosis meditation. She spends her spare time relaxing or traveling with her husband, Carlos, which is Carlos back here in the back. Supported husband. Yeah. She has been affiliated with Nami, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, since 2019. She is also the past chair of an employee resource group for people with physical and mental disabilities, both visible and invisible. Now I'd like to present Kawana Edmondson.
Thank you. I'm Kawana. I'm going to say that this is my first time presenting. I'm trying to memorize my life, but this is me. All right, it's good to see everyone. Thank you for showing up. Again, my name is Kawana. I'm a 50-year-old young grandmother that my grandchildren call me abuelita, which is Spanish for young grandmother. I felt like at 30 years old, when the first grandchild came, I was too young to be called granny, nanny, or grandmother. So I had taught them all abuelita. I'm affiliated with Nami Greater Houston. Like you said, I've been affiliated since 2019. And I like to practice yoga and meditate. Usually like to meditate first thing when I get up in the morning. When I go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I also meditate after I work out for about 10 minutes. Trying to get into the habit of meditating when I go to bed, but I listen to hypnosis meditation, and that's what puts me to sleep and calms my mind. I have bipolar type 2. There are 2 types of bipolar, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is the one that has more mania episodes. Those are the people you hear about that say they're God, they're the president, or they're very hyperactive. Type 2, just myself, is more along the hypomanic or the depressed state. So I've spent a lot of my life being in depressed state for probably 30, 25 years. I spent most of my life in a depressed state. I spent 15 years trying to commit suicide by drug overdose. It's a wonder that I'm still here, because once I took 20 Darvocet, they don't have those anymore. 20 Darvocet, and the next day I woke up to sun shining in my face and the birds chirp, which I love to hear birds chirp. That was my cue. Stop doing what you're doing. Appreciate the life that you have. I'm a helper by nature, so I like to help people that need extra help. I call that wearing my Superwoman cape. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental illness organization. We provide advocacy, education, support groups, and public awareness. My purpose today is to offer insight to provide support in the roles that everyone has. Mental illness affects all of us. So I'm here to give you a little insight on what it's like to live with a mental diagnosis. I'm gonna alternate between talking and let you have questions so that I can answer. So a couple of minutes of talking, then a couple of minutes of answering questions so that you don't have to ask them all at one time. In about 1998, I was nursing in the prison, and my charge nurse called me into a room She said, I want to talk to you. I was a little concerned because we had a really good relationship. And she said, I want you to see a doctor. I said, why? She said, because sometimes you are happy, you come to work happy. Sometimes you come to work sad, and your mood will change within a matter of minutes. So your mood will change suddenly. I felt like if someone that cared about me was telling me that I needed to go see a doctor about my mood, that there must be something wrong, which started me to go and see a psychiatrist. I recall telling the doctor that I was about 20 years old when I started having times where I was awake for 2 weeks at a time, crashed for 3 days while I was working at a chemical plant. I would stay up for 2 weeks, crash for 3 days, do it all over again. All while going out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to the club and the after hours club. So I was full of energy, didn't know why. It was just my normal life. The ups and downs that I was having, I had no control over. So that was very frustrating to not know why I was going from happy to angry to sad, just like that. I stayed on medication for a little while, but as many of us with mental diagnoses, after a while, we feel like, oh, I'm feeling good. I don't need this medication. So they get off. It's a lot of trying different medications. So that's very difficult because you're trying different things to see what's going to work for your illness. The doctor doesn't know. They can put you on something that they think might work, but then you might have bad side effects or it doesn't work for you and you have to try something else. So that's really aggravating and upsetting, to be honest. Then approximately 2007, I was a police officer and I stopped taking my medications because I didn't want my department to know that I had a mental illness, that I was on medication, because then they might feel like she's not a good officer. She would flip on somebody at any time. She's just unpredictable. She's crazy. Because I've heard that all my life about people with a mental diagnosis being crazy. That's that stigma that we're trying to get away from. One night, I was driving down the road and I thought something run across the street. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And this happened a couple of times. I was thinking, what is that running across the street? Could it be a rabbit? Could it be a squirrel? It was nothing. I was in psychosis. What I've noticed in my life is that if I get too stressed out, if I get too tired and stressed out, then I go into psychosis. For me, it's like an altered reality. Then I got back on medication because I knew something was wrong. Those nights before I got back on medication, when I was having those issues, luckily I had a friend that would talk to me anytime at night. I had a friend that was in her master's program that stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning that would talk me through getting through my night shift. At the same time, I was really scared that my job was going to find out what was going on. I still did my job fine, but I was afraid someone might find out, oh, she's seeing things. Didn't know how they were going to find out, but I was thinking they might. Excuse me. Excuse me. I talked to my captain about it, and my captain said, Kawana, it's nobody's business what your diagnosis is. It's nobody's business that you're on medication. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Don't worry about anybody else. Keep it to yourself. Just talk to your psychiatrist and your friends. What helped me in recovery was that I had a boss. Since I've come back to nursing, I had a boss that helped me in one of my psychotic episodes while I was working there at a place where I was working. She helped me find a crisis center. She helped me find a crisis center. They put me back on medication, back on the same things that worked for me before, because I knew what worked for me. That made me feel better. As time went on, I started feeling better. As usual, I started out with, I feel good. I don't need this medication. Ready to get off. So I told my boss, I said, I really want to get off this medication. Psychosis is not real to me. I cannot be in psychosis. This cannot be me. This isn't real. I feel better. She said, feel better because you're on medication. Don't stop taking the medication. Or you're going to go back to where you were. Reason with her, reason with myself. And I realized, for one of you have to accept this is where you are now. And I talked to my psychiatrist about it. And she said, facts are, once you have psychosis, a psychotic episode, you're most likely going to have it happen again. That didn't make me happy, but I've learned, accept what they're telling you. Just accept it and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Daily meditation helps me tremendously because as a person with bipolar, your mind goes and goes and goes and goes. So even when you're gone to sleep, your mind doesn't stop. That's kept me up many, many, many nights because my mind wouldn't stop. Since I have chronic pain, fibromyalgia, which is another invisible disability, just as mental illness is an invisible disability, I have insomnia, I have chronic pain, and all those things put me into stress. So I have to monitor myself and make sure that I'm not under too much stress so that I don't go back into a psychotic break again. Lastly but not least, I am a support facilitator for two groups. One is family support, which is for people that have a family member or someone that they know or take care of. They go to the support group for support because that's hard. When you know someone with the diagnosis, it's hard to be there all the time. It's hard to listen to those things that might hurt you or that you don't understand. Also, I was a facilitator for Connections Recovery. Connections Recovery support group is for people that have a diagnosis and they need support themselves. It's also for those people that have the diagnosis that are in recovery because it's hard to support someone who isn't in recovery. Their sense of reality is warped. They don't know that they need recovery. As recent as last year, I had a depression episode and I wanted to commit suicide again. Depression, for many of us with that diagnosis, is painful. It's physically painful. You don't know why you're in pain, but you'll hear many people that have tried to commit suicide. I was in so much pain. Couldn't take the pain anymore. It's not a happy life. It's not easy. That's why we need assistance in support groups, medication, therapy, things of that sort. The next steps for me are getting back into school. I'm an LVN, licensed vocational nurse, and getting my RN, registered nurse. 50, I would like to become a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Don't know if that's gonna happen, but at least getting my RN will give me the recognition that I served as a nurse 28 years. I'm striving to become involved in as many things with Nami as possible. That is why you see me today speaking in IOOV, which stands for In Our Own Voice. We give our story. We let people see what it's like to live a life with a diagnosis. We let them ask questions. I felt that success with mental illness is being able to tell your story without being stigmatized. That's what I want to do today. Does anyone have any questions or would anyone like to say anything? Okay.
First of all, I just want to thank you for sharing your experience. That's very brave, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other thing is like I love how like you're standing in front of us. You're a beautiful woman. You're all put together. You've had professional success, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand with mental illness aren't necessarily like crazy homeless people. So I really, really appreciate you doing this. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the other things when I talked to my boss, the job I had previously, and I became the chair. We called it GOAL, ERG, Employment Resource Group, and GOAL stood for Giving Our Abilities Away. That's what I wanted everyone to know. You can have a mental illness diagnosis and still be a productive professional person in society. So many, like you said, so many people think it's homeless people, people that's talking to themselves on the street. That's not all it is. We get the help that we need with the diagnosis to lead a productive life. I was an honor student from elementary to college, Dean's List all through college. So when I found out I had a diagnosis, I was like, how could this be? Not for one. No way. My dad has a diagnosis. My mom has a diagnosis. My kids have diagnoses. So when you hear people say it tends to run in families, it can. They aren't diagnosed. They're afraid of the stigma, going to the doctor or their friends finding out about it. So they are not diagnosed. I have one son that has, last I knew, 13 voices. He's a rapper, very good rapper, very good father. But he has to fight the voices and learn which ones to listen to and which ones, don't listen to those. They're going to get you locked up. I have another one with psychosis. This is my oldest, my baby. He thinks he's darker than my husband, but he thinks he's Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes. He thinks his father is Caucasian. He thinks he's friends with the Olsen twins. He accepts that I'm his mother, but at the same time, you hear him in a conversation say, oh, my mother is somebody else. And I had to ask him, what do you think I am? So you're my mama. Didn't understand that, and I barely understand the things that he talks about, but that's his reality. And that's what I have to tell people all the time. A person's perception is their reality. Can't really think about it. You can fuss with them all that you want to, tell them that this is the truth, but if a person has a mental illness diagnosis and that's their reality, you cannot change that, no matter how much you try and you stress yourself.
I have a question.
Yes.
What role did work play keeping busy? Did that help
Yes, but
have your purpose?
that is my goal in life, in working, is having a purpose, knowing that I'm helping other people, and I'm doing something that people really need. So I would say that's why I became a nurse. No, I became a nurse to get off welfare. I want to tell you that $178 of a check every month is no money to take care of yourself or 2 children. So I went to nursing school, get off welfare. A lot of women don't do that. Stay on the system. They think that's enough. It wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be a doctor, but I was afraid that someone would find out and it would decline my license application. When you apply to jobs, they ask you, do you have a mental illness diagnosis? Do you have bipolar? Do you have seizures? Do you have depression? I was putting no because I'm afraid they're going to discriminate against me. I'm afraid they're not going to hire me because I have a diagnosis. Things of that sort. And a lot of us are like that. Same thing with the fibromyalgia. They asked if you have a disability. I would always put no, because I didn't want to be passed up, because I knew I was an intelligent young woman. I knew I could excel and be an asset to the company. But the diagnosis and the stigma wouldn't allow me to be given a chance.
So there were doors closed to you
Yes,
because of your illness.
yes. I remember applying as a police officer to Dallas. And I put the truth on it. I think that was my first application. Took me 2.5 years to get a job as a police officer. It's not as easy as people would think. You don't just apply and become. I put the truth on there. Didn't get the job. And they needed people. They were hard up for police officers. A lot of police officers getting killed, a shortage, but I didn't get the job. I didn't understand it until I applied to University Place. I think that's the name of it, over in Bel Air. They told me, you don't have to put all that on your application. It's not their business. You don't have to put on your application that your children have felonies and your father has a felony, because they ask you that on the application. Do you have any family members with a felony? So you don't have to put that. Change your application up so you can get you a job. They didn't hire me either. I'm thinking it's because I put the truth on there. But it helped me later to get a job at the constable's office. They gave me a chance. I didn't tell them. They gave me a chance and I excelled. I want to leave here today with everyone having the understanding of what it's like for someone with a diagnosis, especially bipolar psychosis, what it's like for us to live every day. If there are any questions that you have, please don't be afraid to ask me. I can answer them. And if it's something that I can't answer, which I should be able to answer everything myself, if it's something that I can't answer, I'll get that answer for you and I'll get that to you.
So, see, what kind of, if you feel open to share this, what kind of therapy were you given in addition to medicine?
I didn't do therapy very long. I felt like I didn't need to talk to anyone.
Didn't need what?
I didn't need to talk to anyone.
Okay, sure.
I felt like I could handle it all myself, which I'm sure hurt me. And I needed therapy. I had things happen to me in a young age that I know I needed therapy for, that I still deal with as a 50-year-old adult. Haven't dealt with, probably should say it like that. The psychosis still, I'm almost in denial about that. Because like I said, I'm thinking, I don't know, straight A student, the cop, the nurse. How can I have psychosis? No way. There is no way I could have psychosis. Maybe bipolar. Tried all those times to commit suicide, unsuccessful. Psychosis? No. Those are for people that are homeless. Those are people that's for people that are in jail. Those type of people. But it's me. It's me. There are a lot of faces like mine that are in the same position. Does anyone else have any comments?
I want to, I may have missed this, but you said that 1998 you were diagnosed, is that correct?
1998, yes ma'am.
And how old were you?
I think I was 27.
Is that the first time you really experienced an episode, or all your life even as a child did you experience?
20s, early 20s. Early 20s is when I started having issues.
Did you have a life event change that triggered that, or is it just one set?
Not having dealt with the things that happened to me as a child, things happened to me that I didn't want to happen, affected me. Not having a mother that believed me, affected me. And all that piled together on top of low income, which I wasn't accustomed to being. I was a sheltered child and young adult. Living in an all-black community, which I wasn't accustomed to. It was very stressful. It was very hard on me in my early 20s. Being a single parent of 2 boys, not knowing how to take care of boys because I wasn't a man. I couldn't teach them man things. It's very stressful to me. So the stress in my life and not dealing with the things as a child kicked me over into the mental illness side. That happens to a lot of people. Events in their life is what moves them over to having a mental illness diagnosis. My son, the oldest one that I told you about, that thinks he's Caucasian, I can remember back when he was about 3, he would have a fit, throw his head back on the floor, bam, or kick, cry. And I thought it was just a temper tantrum. That was him at the beginning of a mental illness diagnosis, a behavior problem. I didn't know because I was a young mother. I was 19. I didn't know. I was still trying to raise myself. Had I gotten him help at a young age, I always think maybe he would not be like it. But that also told me as I got older and learned more about mental illness. Mental illness is a chemical imbalance. A lot of people don't know that either. That's why medication helps, because of the chemical imbalance. So there was nothing I could have done besides gotten him therapy. I didn't know. So that has led to a lot of guilt in my life as well. My other children having diagnoses, I feel guilty about that as well, because it's being passed down. I guess I don't know how, through the genes, through what, but it's definitely being passed down. And I don't want I have one grandchild that's having issues as well. So it's just going trickling down. But that's the life. That's the cross that I bear. And I just pray about it. Anyone else? Miss Me.
You mentioned like how medication would stable you out, you would feel fine, but then you'd want to get off. Like what would make a person want to stop taking medication if they felt, leveled out and normal?
That's just it. You feel normal. So you think, I don't need this. I can do this by myself. That's what you think. That's what a lot of people think. I don't need this medicine. There's nothing wrong with me. So they get off the medication, only to have to either go back on it, not go back on it, not live a productive, healthy life. That's the goal. To have a diagnosis and live a healthy life, healthy, productive. Do you have something?
Oh, I wasn't asking, your medication that you were taking, were you taking medication for your depression or for your psychotic episodes or for both?
Okay. In the beginning, it was for depression. Then as the mood stuff started to happen worse, I started taking a mood stabilizer. Then when I started having the psychotic breaks, that's another thing that bothered me. I take a lot of medications for my mental illnesses. To me, a lot. I have to take a lot of sleep medicine, at least 4 pills, because my brain goes so fast at night. I have to take something to make it stop. I have to take something to make me stay asleep. But I've been on all 3. Each time there was a change, I had to go on medication. Anyone else?
Did you have difficulty in finding in finding the right medication? I know you talked about having the doctor kind of suggest various things to you. And did you have any varying degrees of success with SSRIs, or were you given even even stuff like Xanax, stuff like that? Were you given the whole the medicine cabinet?
No, luckily I had a very good psychiatrist that didn't believe in those Band-Aid type, the Xanax, didn't believe in Band-Aids. He believed in getting straight to the source with the medication and going with that. When I spoke to you all about being in a lot of pain and taking Darvocet, that was because my doctor, I would just tell him I'm hurting all over. I'm hurting. So he would give me Darvocet. That's what they did back in the day. So I was taking pain pills, getting medically addicted to pain pills because I was hurting and didn't know why I was hurting. Doctors back then didn't know why I was hurting, so they just medicated you with pain pills. Did I answer your question? Okay. Oh, treatment. I think the medication that I take for a mood stabilizer is an SSRI. I think, but I can't recall for sure. And unfortunately, so that I'm not promoting a pharmaceutical company, I cannot say what I'm taking.
Sure.
But they work for me. Mood stabilizer, antidepressant. Forgot about the other one. Anxiety. Another one that my body has probably jumped to. Anxiety. I'm sure that was from the stress. Trying to take care of my family, my son that has the diagnosis, the oldest one. Trying to keep up with my work. I was a trainer at the job that I was at. So sometimes I would train 5 to 7 people at one time. Different personalities. I loved it, but that was a stress. Something to sleep, something to keep me asleep. Now I use CBD to help me get through my day so that I'm not going slowly for what I take that night before to go to sleep.
So what effect does lack of sleep do to you if you don't get enough sleep?
Makes me cranky, makes you tired, makes you unable to concentrate, causes brain fog. I describe brain fog as, you know, you have the cartoon with the person and the big cloud. They're thinking, the big cloud over their head. That's what I describe as brain fog. I tell my husband all the time, if my butt was not connected to me, I wouldn't know where it was. Today is one of those days. I can't keep up with anything. I can't think clear. I'm having severe brain fog.
Have you looked into it all, how like diet can affect the health? And
Yes.
do you do any specific dietary restrictions? Like, are you perhaps doing like the keto or the Atkins diet? Have you tried any of these in addition to therapy and meditation, medication?
No, I haven't, but I have read that, and I've been told by my psychiatrist, stay away from caffeine because that affects your mood. But I need to have my 2 cups of coffee every day. Sometimes 4, depending on what's going on that day. I have heard about the keto diet because you're lacking certain things in that are supposed to affect your psyche. That help your psyche, right? I don't know about any other diets off the top of my head, but yes, I've heard about it. I don't adhere to them. I still have that sandwiches. So I want to try to handle as much as I can by myself. I take my medicine faithfully now. After all the extra diagnosis of the psychosis and anxiety, I decided after those, I would never come off my medicine again. There were times when my kids were young, when I had 3, that I would be in my room and I would just start screaming. Please, don't mind my room. Just start screaming. I don't know how my kids live. There was a time when I first met my husband that I was so stressed about having my oldest son with his severe illness. I wanted to kill myself. I couldn't take it anymore. Every morning he was getting up, yelling at over the fence. There was no one, but he saw something. I had a 40 Glock, 40 caliber Glock from when I was a police officer. I sat on the bed and I thought, pills didn't do it. Still woke up to the birds chirping. Apparently, wasn't meant for you to go. A person can get shot and still live. They can shoot themselves and still live, just being in the sheep. So I need to find a surefire way that I'm gonna not live this time. To my chest. My intent, I said, well, if you stop the heart, the body's gonna die. I said, my intent was to pull the trigger. I could not take the pain. My middle child, my son, that has the 13 voices, walked in the room. I'm pretty sure. Listen, your brother is sick. I can't take waking up to him yelling at the window every night. I can't take not being a police officer anymore. I got injured, and that was a job that I loved. That was my dream job. So I was taken out of that field due to injury. So I can't take not a police officer to me. Somebody said, no, you're Kawana. No, I'm a police officer. So he sat on the side of the bed, talked to me. I eventually put the gun down on the side of me. I wasn't going too far from him. For the first time, I went to a psych hospital. Told my husband about it. I wanted my kids and my shit. I went to the hospital for chest pain. Yes, that was stress. Went to the hospital for chest pain. And somewhere in there, I told him about killing myself, trying to kill myself. Flags everywhere. Doctors came in very quickly then. Said LBJ, and you know LBJ is not quick. All kind of doctors came in, and the doctor said, "You're a police officer, right?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You know that if I report you, you no longer carry a gun anymore." Started crying. I said, "Yes, we." Said, "You need to go in the hospital." Started crying even more. Said, "I promise I won't do it again. I promise, please don't make me go to the hospital." Because I felt like hospital were for crazy people. Even I thought crazy people, not me. I went into a hospital for trying to commit suicide. Fortunately, they were not helping. Not for suicidal people. They just gave me medicine. So, stay in my room. Make me get up to come outside for work. Eat in my room. They never talk to me. No doctor, no therapist. Never talk to me. So since I signed myself in, I read the handbook. A lot of people don't read handbooks. And in the handbook, in the back of the book, it talked about if you sign yourself in, you sign yourself out. They have to let you out in 24 hours. They didn't let me out in 24 hours. It took 2.5 days. So that was a violation against their policy. But I got out. Said, God, I don't ever want to go there again. Ever. I don't ever want to go in the hospital again. So another reason to continue my medication. I don't want to experience that. I don't want that on my worst enemy. It just was not a good experience. And it's not healthy. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Could your friends tell whenever you were not feeling 100%?
I think my best friend could. That's like my only friend. I think my best friend could. She knew when I had the brain fog because if we were talking, then I would forget what I was saying in mid-sentence. Another one could tell because when I was in hypomania, going into mania, he said I would start talking really, really fast and about everything. So they could. Not everyone. A lot of people couldn't tell. A lot of people couldn't tell because I was stable. I was what was called a functioning bipolar person.
And are you happy?
I am. I am now. Now that I've given up, now that I've married my husband, he's the key. He's really the key because he understands me. A lot of people A lot of men that I dated didn't understand me having a diagnosis, was not supportive of me, and called me crazy. They would say things, and a lot of people say things like, oh, she's just bipolar, or he's just bipolar, not even knowing what it stands for, not knowing what it means. Or he's or her just crazy. They have issues, they have problems. They don't understand. It's another reason I'm here with you all today. I want you to understand. I want to answer all your questions. If you have more questions, reach out to Mr. Paul, and he knows how to contact me. I'll be glad to answer. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Are there like programs of people who pay for their medicine and they can afford their medicine if they absolutely need it?
There are. There's the Harris Center that's in Houston. There is with Harris Health System. There is one called HCPC, which stands for Harris County Psychiatric Center. There's another one at Bental that's called NPC, that's Neural Psych Center. They help the low income get medication. And sometimes free, a lot of times free. If you are in that poverty level, you can get medicated, you can get your medicine free. And if you're not, and say you don't have insurance, then you go to the company's website. There are most of them, if not all of them, have patient assistance programs, and you can get your medication for either free, $10, $20. But just go to the website. If you have anyone that you know that can't afford to get their medication, and that's why they're not being treated, tell them to go to say it's Allergan, a medication made by Allergan. Go to Allergan's website, go to their patient assistance programs, fill out the application, have your doctor do their checkpoints on it, and you get your medication. Good medication. Expensive medication. Anyone else?
Question.
Yes, sir.
You used to work for the police department. Do you know about the program where they learn about the mentally ill and then is that called a crisis team, or
It
how does
is.
that work?
It is. They learn extra because in the academy, we're taught a little bit.
Right.
Little bit. Notice I don't have any space. A little bit.
Mhm.
In the academy, you aren't taught how to deal with public that have a mental illness. So a lot of police officers, when they deal with people on the street, they don't treat them well. They don't know how to deal with someone with mental illness. They're not taught. So the crisis team is taught more about people with mental illness, are taught how to diffuse the situation, how to calm the person down. And there is a place in the jail that is for specifically people with a mental illness. Now I have to say, my son went through that, my oldest son, because I feel like that was my only option, was to have him picked up because he kept getting in trouble. He doesn't understand a lot. He was drugged with PCP and marijuana at 11. That's some of his reason for having a mental diagnosis. He's been stuck at 11 since. So I went through the court system. I'm one of those people big on law stuff. A lot of people in my family aren't big on that. So I went to the court system, the mental health court system. Got him picked up. And the crisis team came to pick him up. They calmed him down. Told him it was going to be okay. Explained to him because he thought I was trying to hurt him. He's in the bathroom combing my hair. He thought I was trying to kill him. He hit me with the face. Started beating me up and something. In his mind, I was trying to kill him. They picked him up. They took him to jail. Of course, he had to sit in that holding area with everybody else. I was scared to death because I knew that if a police officer had to deal with him, they were going to think he was being volatile violent, and treat him really bad. That did happen. And I'm one of those parents that I'm gonna call and check on you. So I would call the jail and ask them how we doing. He tried to commit suicide. I was on the outside. There's nothing I could do about it, but talk to the mental health people. They could only listen to me. They couldn't tell me about him. So we can listen to you, but we can't tell you what's going on with you. That was hard. The mental health board helped in a way because they got him on medication through the Harris Center. Got him with therapy. It was good when he got out. But they were also affected us adversely because they let him out too quickly without getting him the care that he needed. But once he got out, he wasn't on medication. They didn't send, normally they send you home with, I think, 7 days of medication or 10. They sent him home with nothing. I said, what am I supposed to do? I can't get him in a doctor's office that fast. A lot of times they don't care. In the job, in the jail. But the crisis team, units, very good. They're very trained at what they do to defuse the situation and be able to detain, because that's what they're doing, detain the person, to get them to the jail, to get them to the psych part, to get them the care that they need.
That's why it's probably important for the family member to already know who the crisis team is, right, beforehand. And
A lot of times
call
they get
for the
those.
right team.
Right. Ask for, I need a crisis person.
Yeah.
Mhm. Anyone else? There's no one else. I will end this presentation. I thank everyone for showing up, asking me questions. I hope I answered all the questions you have. Like I said, if I didn't, Mr. Paul, reach out to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.